and we know who our three witnesses are. Well, we don't know their names or who exactly, but we know the what. So we know we have a former US Air Force veteran who can speak on up to 5 UAP incidents from his time in the service. We have a US Navy officer who witnessed UAP events firsthand, and another US Air Force officer with first-hand encounters, claims of crash recoveries, pilot sightings, safety concerns, biologics, and a really interesting line of questioning from folks like Tim Burchett, Anna Polina Luna, Representative Eric Burleson, and others, which again was the big one for me. I was quite impressed with Nancy Mace, who within hours of impressing me was selling t-shirts and playing down the topic, and I don't know what happened then. I like the idea that you go in with tempered expectations, proceed with caution. You can't be let down too much if you do that. The age of disclosure will be shown to Congress in 2 private screenings as voting begins on the UAP Disclosure Act. I think if you want to see it as groundbreaking, it would have to be from that point of view, that you've got some really high-ranking politicians and officials discussing something rather incredible. I don't see the general public having an appetite for a 90-minute talking head documentary, given a lot of the talking heads, and bear in mind, folks, I've not seen it still, are representatives from Congress, the military and whatnot, that the general public largely won't care about, especially outside of the United States. This age of disclosure, which is becoming almost lower in the UFO community. I do not have answers. I do not have all the answers. No single person ever could, but I am committed to sharing what I can. The harsh truth is this: to obtain the answers we seek, our system must change. This change has already started. It cannot be stopped, but the pace and final outcome depends on us. Revealing that which the powerful have concealed, unravelling a century of lies, overturning the tables in the temple. I really like Matthew, and from what we've seen and heard of him, I look forward to seeing part 2, which I think is going to go into a little bit more of the murkier detail behind that. Real interesting timing. How can you be sure what you saw was not just war games or a psyop situation like what was in the Wall Street Journal article? The way he left the Weaponized podcast, it was almost on a bit of a cliffhanger, and I'd like to see more said. Maybe Matthew is waiting to see what gets said at the hearing to then see how much more he shares of his story. Skywatcher announced earlier in the year that they would hope to have real results by the end of 2025. However, what may hamper that is one of the founders, James Fowler, of the organisation, who was known for bringing along and having that dog whistle technology, has moved on from the organisation to a new role. I visualise it as a big box in my head. You flick a switch, it creates a frequency or signal, these objects come close. Apparently it has a 100% accuracy rate. I am excited to focus on a new venture in aerial intelligence, dedicated to building innovative technology to address complex challenges in this field. The Skywatcher team is excited to congratulate James Fowler on his new venture contracting with the US government, and we sincerely thank him for his contributions to Skywatcher. He has played a key role in all of our field operations and in the data we have collected. We are working with world-class independent scientists, physicists and radar specialists to evaluate the data in accordance with our discovery framework. Fowler going back to government, you could look at it in multiple different ways, and people are. One, the government has won. They've got involved, they have stopped them. I've talked about on this show, and other people have as well, that part of Skywatcher's remit or modus operandi was a non-public one, to reach out to people within government to say, stop us. You could look at it as the government shutting things down and signing one of the star players from the team, a real contributing player in James Fowler. Speaking as someone from outside the US, I have absolutely no confidence in the efforts being made within the borders of that nation, and I think that folks in the US with good intent working towards disclosure should work beyond the realm of their national allegiance for the good of all people. Support for controlled disclosure with allegiance to national interest is in support of efforts that have caused massive harm to many people. Gary Nolan stated that if he felt there was any moral issue with Skywatcher and their work and them having any nefarious intent towards these UAP or craft, whatever they are, he would leave. The Lockheed Martin CL-957, nicknamed Tic Tac, was created in the early 2000s as part of the secret Project Orbit Lance. This advanced transmedium vehicle, designed for aerospace operations, is presently being tested at Groom Lake and Dugway Proving Grounds. There is a lot of nonsense, a lot of disinformation being pushed online. This one is, folks, I would file under nonsense, but is also interesting, part of an ongoing CIA disinformation campaign. Maybe this kind of thing is just another part of that, where people dump stuff online. It was controversial, and like I say earlier, when Ross mentions things being a dog and pony show, I can see why it upsets folks when he made statements like he did, but then can't go into more detail. I fall on the side of, I don't believe it is Lockheed Martin technology. And if it is, I think that brings up a whole load of more questions. Ross is a strong character and he knows what he's saying, he knows what he's doing. I could possibly buy that the Tic Tac is or was Lockheed Martin, but if it was, it's extremely bizarre. All the data was snatched up and Admiral G. Gallaudet was left out of the loop. And it's funny that here we are 21 years after the Tic Tac event happened, we're still talking about it and it still seems like it's got something more to give. No matter who or what lets you down in this subject, whether it's an individual or an organisation or a train of thinking you had or a piece of evidence you've held dear and you've been let down by said person, organisation, evidence, I think I saw something pretty incredible that wasn't human, and perhaps the more I've been involved in the topic, it was something. When you look at the nature of reality and can something access our reality in a different way to us, did we see it? And I think the pushback and the cover-up, when you look at the totality of what's happening right now, is enough to suggest this isn't just the US hiding some secret tech, because I think there's a lot of panic. I think there is a lot of cross-pollination across the topic. The psionic aspect of this, the fact they can technologically and psionically or psychically contact craft, it's splintered off into so many different directions. That makes things complicated, it makes things naturally more complex, but perhaps it gives us different avenues or paths or opportunities for progress. Skinwalker Ranch has its audience. I'd love to hear from folks who do continue to watch as things go on and carry on into further seasons. Are you still enjoying it? Are you feeling that it's getting somewhere? And I appreciate maybe folks who listen to this or watch this podcast, that is your bag. For other people, it's not so much. But yeah, I think there's a lot of moving parts. It's very complex, very complicated. A fairer chance to make up their own mind. I don't want to come on here and tell you who to believe, who to listen to, who to watch for, who not to watch for. I can only share my opinion and always try and state that it is my opinion. I think the treatment of David Grush from when he came out with the attacks, both personally and professionally, showed how someone making the statements he made could be treated. As to the tiff between Elizondo and Luna on X, I live in the same town as Luis Elizondo. The closest major airport is 120 miles. Yes, we have an airport 35 miles away, but you have to connect to Denver, and there are few flights to choose from. Also, that time of year is our snowiest time of year, and the weather is very unpredictable. They control it all, and we may never know the truth. This is my personal opinion, but yeah, that's what I say when in this topic. Certainly no one is perfect, and the David Grush element being thrown in, you only have to throw one cat amongst the pigeons for so many different folks to carry on with their own stories. There's enough disinformation, there's enough misinformation being spread. I think if you're a gatekeeper, you sprinkle a little bit of bullshit in amongst some truth, and then it's very hard to disseminate what is truth, what is bullshit. Why not treat yourself? If you don't, fuck it, don't.